crisscross applesauce.
Hey yo, and welcome to my channel. I am criscrosaplesos, and today I'm going to be going over some of the mechanics of my new one-shot build for Season 3. I will not be going in depth over every single skill in the tree and the Paragon. That makes for a very long video, and you guys get bored pretty easily. So I'm going to give some details about how the mechanics of this build work together, how some of the aspects are very necessary to have, what you don't need, and the skills you need to do in order to one-shot bosses, as well as gear that you can switch, and a couple skills in your tree you can swap to go really quickly and easily from clearing to bossing gear with enough damage to kill a T100 boss. So with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into it. There are a couple things that make this work for high tier nightmare dungeons, one of them being the interaction between the Juggernaut aspect, which gives us a huge chunk of armor, which is huge for us, but it also doubles our evade cooldown to 10 seconds. But our way around this is by utilizing boots that have the affix attacks reduce evades cooldown, and that mixed with the aspect that we have on our boots, which is the Manglers, gives us a 45% chance to daze enemies for 2 seconds, and with penetrating shot and combo points we have an 80% lucky hit chance with penetrating shot, in addition to another 33% when we shadow imbue it. So we have a very high chance. About half of the enemies we hit are going to be dazed when we use penetrating shot with shadow imbuement. Now, what makes this all work really well is just simply having a point in rapid gambits. It cools down your evade each time you daze an enemy, which is going to be all the time. You hit penetrating shot into a big group of enemies, you're going to get it back real quick. So, other than that, the build is pretty simple. At least this part of it is. You're going to be using Shadow Step as your unstoppable. Just, I wouldn't suggest using it for maneuverability. We're going to have more than enough movement speed. This is your oh shit button. If you get CC'd, just pop that and get the hell out of there. This is definitely a ranged build. You do not want to be in the center of a bunch of enemies. You're gonna have a bad time. So keep a distance if you do find yourself in the center of a ton of enemies, or there's just a ridiculous amount of projectiles going all over the place. All you need to do is pop your Dark Shroud. And what that's going to do is it's going to proc your Writhing Band of Trickery to leave behind a decoy that does shadow damage. Do this once every 12 seconds, and with enough CDR you can get your cooldown to about 15 seconds, so you have a 3-second delay window. But you only use, if you avoid getting hit in the first place, maintaining 5 of these Dark Shrouds is huge for us, because each one of those is going to give us 9.6 damage reduction per active shadow. So 9.6 times 5, but then we also add another 4 per each one of those. So it's actually 13.6 times 5 increased damage reduction while we have those, which is very big for us. So again, if you get yourself into a bind, up that, get back, wait for it to explode, then hit the whole area with shadow, and even on a tier 100, that's going to obliterate 90% of everything there. Might only take an elite down to a little bit, but that's when you come in with the rapid fire and just demolish whatever's there. Rapid fire is a incredible single target and is why I'm using it for this setup. Okay. Like most people in this season, we're using, I took it out because it's really loud, but we're using Firefly with multi-shot, piercing, and seeking support. It's just a great constant source of damage all the time. This little robot goes crazy. You can also pair this with Tempest and basically run around and let them kill everything. Doesn't really work on the highest tier nightmare dungeons, but it is very nice. I have elected to go for Protect with Safeguard, Duration, and Tactical Support, which means that I have only a 3-second downtime of barrier, and the barrier is equal to your life, so I essentially have double my effective life pool for 9 seconds out of every 12 seconds. I really like this, and it also, when it initially procs, you have another 15% multiplicative damage reduction for the first 7 seconds of that 9 seconds you have barrier. So it's a very, very good defensive option. 8.5 out of 10, highly recommend. Now, for bossing with the clear gear on, so you don't have to swap out your entire skill tree and your entire gear set. Here's the bossing gear setup that I'll be showing you in a moment. But if you simply swap out these 4 unique items, get out of here, get out of here, and get out of here, and get out of here. Yeah, if you simply swap out these 4, your Sky Hunter, your Tibalt's Will, your Beastfall Boots, and your Banished Lord's Talisman, then you spend 300 resource before going into the boss fight. Then you have more than enough damage to take out a boss. Okay, so now, as you can see, I have switched out clear gear for the bossing gear. I'll be going over that in a second. But first, let's go ahead and look at how we can adjust our skill tree to really get the maximum amount of damage out of this setup. I've switched from Puncture to Heartseeker and grabbed Fundamental Heartseeker for an extra 15% multiplicative critical strike damage. Very nice to have, especially since there is still a bugged interaction between Advanced Rapid Fire, Weapon Mastery, and the new setup for Precision. We lose a lot of damage there because it doesn't work, so this is one way that I've decided I'm going to gain some of that back. Now, the easiest thing to do is simply take away Trick Attacks, Rapid Gambits, throw one into Dash and then another in Enhanced Dash. This will give us another 15% multiplicative critical strike damage. So there's 30% more critical strike damage that we wouldn't have had. We are stacking vulnerable damage, so still use Weapon Mastery. At 12% is very nice to have. And the one thing that we really need is we need Smoke Grenade, and then we need Enhanced Smoke Grenade, so that our Dash has it at the end. If you do not have this aspect on a chest piece, then you can manually do the grenades, but in order to grab the grenades, since we have 5 points into our Shadow Imbuement, I just take 2 of those away. Since we won't be using the Imbuement at all, pop those right in there, and there you go. You are now set up to do some bossing. One-shotting world boss type bossing, not Nightmare Dungeon bossing. So with that done, we're going to also swap out. I don't have a second Governing Stone, and our guy doesn't really matter. We're going to be killing everything in one shot, so the only thing we really need is this Flash of Adrenaline, which, if you have Duration Support, Tactical Support, and Safeguard Support on it, it is a 100% upkeep time. Every 12 seconds, it'll proc, and you get 20% more multiplicative damage. Very nice little chunk to have, but the key is to time it well with your bossing, because he will not proc it until you attack something. Then he will proc it, and you can see its little animations over my hands. There, he just procced it again. So yeah, very nice little chunk of damage. So much like last season, there's a couple of things we're going to need to do before we do our rapid fire one shot. First thing is obviously spend 300 resource. That guarantees that our next core skill is going to be an overpower. Now, because of the new rework with Precision, we don't have to worry about using Concealment to proc a guaranteed critical hit, because if we have 6 stacks of Precision, it's a guaranteed critical hit that does extra damage. As you can see here, it'll give 15% of your critical damage strike bonus, which for us is 257%. I'm not entirely sure what we're up to total, 920, and our overpower damage could be higher. If you don't have numbers at least this high, there's a couple things you can do. Use a Blessed Guide, increasing your willpower. Willpower is how we get a lot of our overpower damage. As you can see, there's 93% there. And if I pop this, there's now 99%, so that's 6% more overpower damage. And then we can either use a Heedy Crushing Elixir, giving us another 60 overpower damage, or my personal favorite, using the Elixir of Resourcefulness, giving us a huge chunk of damage, since we are using the new Beastfall Boots. Now, if you've looked at the gear at all, you'll notice that I have maximum energy on everywhere I can get it. I sacrificed some damage with these Tybalts just for the 20 maximum resource, much like last season, but this time there's not a bug that gives us extra combo points, it just gives us extra damage. For each energy that we use to consume a core skill right after we cast our ultimate, we're going to get 1.2% more damage. That could be a 1.5, and believe me, that little bit is a huge difference. I have not been able to get a 1.5 to drop yet, but this season is fairly young. And as you can see, I got a 29 out of 30 roll on the maximum energy, which is very nice. Also, grabbing maximum energy on your rings is very nice. That's you can get a total of 28 from there. And you can get 20 on here, so there's 48. Then you can get another 30 here, so that's 78. And then 98. So you can get essentially 100 extra essence just from your gear. As you can see, I've got 190, but that could be a lot more if we pop that. And if we did pop this, that would be giving us 240 energy to spend on our overpower, which would be equivalent to increasing our damage by 288% multiplicative, which is absolutely massive. A delightful amount of damage. I'm going to show you that I'm just going to use the incense for now, as the potions of resourcefulness, unless you're buying them up from people off the market, are few and far between. So, at any rate, the process is going to be much like last season, except we don't have caltrops, and we really don't have to push as many buttons. It pretty much works for itself. So, once a boss spawns, just make sure you have 300 energy spent, make sure you have 6 stacks of precision, make sure you have all 3 stacks of your combo points, and then you're going to be dashing into the boss. Usually this isn't a big deal because bosses are huge and you can just dash through them, and your smoke grenades are going to proc, giving you more damage. The aspect on our helmet, we will be guaranteed barrier, which stacks nicely with our conceited aspect, giving us another 25% extra damage. So hit the boss 3 times, make sure everything's good. That, and there you go. I waited a little bit too long on one of those, so I only had like 20 million per arrow around that. You can get up to 40-50 million just like last season, which is more than enough to one-shot everything in the end game. Alright, that about does it for this one. Please check the link in the description for the full build. You can find all the Paragon points and the skill trees and everything in there, as well as the best in slot modifiers on the gear itself. Please like and subscribe. Please leave a comment as well. I am not perfect. I make mistakes, and I don't know everything there is to know about this game, so if I have stated something wrong, please correct me. And other than that, have a good life.